Hello all, welcome to History for Exams. In this module, we'll be discussing some important notes from Upinder Singh for the chapter Vedic Age. And this is part 2. We have already covered the part 1. If anybody didn't watch, please go and watch it. And in this module, we'll be discussing the Rigvedic period. So let's begin. So in this part 2, we'll be discussing about these topics, the Vedas, making a general idea regarding the Vedic text. Then we'll be discussing about the tribes and wars in Rigveda, also the Rigvedic polity. So Vedas, they are basically the oldest literary works of Aryans. So what we can see, this Vedic age that produce some kind of literary works, they are simply referred as the Vedas, and these Vedas are the oldest literary works in the world itself, and these are written by these people called as Aryans. And that can be classified into 3 classes. One is Samhitas, then Brahmanas and Aranyakas. Samhitas are also called as the mantras. They are basically the collection of hymns, prayers, charms and sacrificial formulas. They are called as the Samhitas. And these Samhitas consist of Rigveda, Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. Simply, the 4 important Vedas, they are collectively called as Samhitas or mantras, consisting the Rigveda, Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. Among these Yajurveda, they are basically sacrificial formulas and having 14 chapters or 14 mandalas. And Atharvaveda, it consists of 20 chapters called as 20 mandalas, and it also consists of some important magic, hypnotism, enslavement through mantra. Such kind of practices can be understood through this work called as Atharvaveda. So these 4 are collectively called as Samhitas. And other 2 are Brahmanas are extension of these Samhitas, and they are a kind of primitive theology. Next is Aranyakas and Upanishads. Both are some kind of philosophical works, and these contain some kind of philosophical meditations of the hermits and ascetics on the topics such as soul, God, world, man, Atman, such kind of things. So simply in saying that these Aranyakas, they are philosophical in nature. Brahmanas are the extension of these Samhitas, and Samhitas includes these 4 important Vedas. So this is a general understanding regarding the Vedas or the Vedic literature. Hope you understood. Now we are going to particularly understand the early Vedic period, or also called as the Rigvedic period. So the early Vedic period itself called as the Rigvedic period, that is spanned between 1500 BC and continued till 1000 BC. So that period is the Rigvedic period or the early Vedic period that we can see in the northwestern part of India. And these are some of the important sites or the tribes of this period. We'll be discussing more about them in this chapter itself. And why this period is called as the Rigvedic period or early Vedic period? Simply the answer is that during this period, that means between this period 1500 and 1000 BC, what we can see, the Rigveda was composed or the early Vedic period was happened. And more about this Rigveda, here we are going to incorporate some important points from NCERT also. Okay. So along with Upinder Singh, we are also incorporating some important points from NCERT also. So Rigveda, they are the collection of more than 10,000 verses and 1000 plus hymns. Around 1028 hymns are there in this Rigveda. And it is said that these hymns, they were composed by 2 important class people. One is the Rishi family Angiras. About 35% of the hymns were composed by them. And the Kanva family, they composed around 25% of this Rigveda. Also, the hymns are known as the Sukta, and that were composed to be used in ritual purpose. Also, we can see Gayatri Mantra, that is dedicated to goddess Savitri, that is found in Rigveda itself. And generally what we can see, this Rigveda, that is divided into 10 books, and each book is called as Mandala. So simply what we can see, there were 10 Mandalas. And among these 10 mandalas, the mandala from 2 to 7 is referred as the family books or the parent books or the original books. So this is just an introduction regarding this Rigveda, and that is composed of 1028 hymns by Angiras and Kanva family, and these hymns are called as Suktas, and most importantly Gayatri Mantra, that is seen in this Rigveda itself, and the Rigveda is divided into 10 mandalas. Now we are going to understand about the tribes and wars mentioned in Rigvedic period. So what we can see in the early Vedic period, there were many tribal communities and there happened many wars for their sustainability or for the survival of these tribes. So what we can see, there were about 30 tribes and clans that are mentioned in our Rigveda. So there are about 30 tribes and clans are mentioned in Rigveda. Among them, 5 tribes were most important one. And these 5 tribes were called as the 5 peoples or Panjajana, Panjakristya or Panjamanusha. They are referred with these titles Panjamanusha, Panjakristya, Panjajana or 5 peoples. They are the 5 tribes such as Yadus, Turvasha, Puru, Anu and Druhyu. These were the 5 peoples or the 5 tribes, also referred as the Panjajana, Panjakristya and Panjamanusha. The Rigvedic text also mentions some important tribes such as these Purus and Bharatas. And the chief of this Puru community was Trasadisyu. And the Bharata king Divodasa also mentioned. So Divodasa was the most important king of this Bharata community. And this Divodasa, he defeated the Dasa ruler Shambhara, and who had many mountain fortresses. Hence what we can see the victory of Bharata king Divodasa against Shambhara. So in Rigveda we can see some important battles or fights between various tribes such as these Purus, Bharatas, Dasas, etc. and etc. And most importantly, there is going to be one mentioning about one most important battle, that is called as the Battle of Dasaragna. We will be discussing about them in the next slide. Dasaragna or Battle of 10 Kings, that is referred in Rigvedic text, and that is considered as one of the most important, the Battle of Tribes, in which what we can see there were 10 kings, and that's why it is called as Dasaragna. And this Battle of 10 Kings is mentioned in the book number 7, that means the parent book. So in the family book 7 what we can see the mentioning of this Battle of 10 Kings, and in which what we can see the Bharata chief Sudas, and this Sudas was the grandson of Divodasa. We have already mentioned about this king Divodasa. His grandson was Sudas, and this Sudas, he defeated or he fought against the confederacy of other 10 tribes. So the Bharata chief or the Bharata tribe versus 10 other. So this battle is called as the Battle of Dasaragna or the Battle of 10 Kings, in which what we can see there was one Bharata Purohita named as Vishwamitra, who was replaced by another one Vashishta. So there were some important Purohitas or priest people such as Vishwamitra and Vashishta. There were some kind of conflict and ego clashes between these two people. Hence, it led to the Battle of Dasaragna. Finally, what we can see, there happened this battle on the banks of the river Ravi, and that is referred as Parushni in Rigveda. And finally, what was the result? The Bharatas, they won this war against these 10 tribes by breaking a natural dam on the river Parushni or river Ravi. And finally, after the battle of this Parushni, the Bharata tribe, they marched towards Yamuna, and there they defeated a local ruler named Beda. And finally, what we can see, this Suda community or this Bharata tribe, they eventually settled down along the river Saraswati. Very important point, they settled along the river Saraswati and celebrated their victory and established their political supremacy over there by performing Ashwamedha sacrifice. So these are some of the events or evidence that we can see or that we can understand from our text Rigveda. So this is the most important battle referred in Rigveda, that is in book number 7, and it was the fight between the Sudas and 10 other tribes, and it was fought along the river Parushni, and it eventually led to the victory of these Bharatas, and finally they settled down in the regions of river Saraswati. So these are the most important points you have to remember. Next we are going to understand the Rigvedic polity. The family book of Rigveda, already we have mentioned from 2 to 7. That mentions different terms or different socio-political units such as Jana, Vish, Gana, Grama, Griha and Kula. And these were based on kinship, based on blood relationship, or that were based on a tribal political system. The Rigveda that mentions some kind of administrative units such as Grama, Vish and Jana. The Grama was under Gramini, and it consisted of many kulas or families. So what we can see, many families or kulas leading to the formation of Grama, and it was under the supervision of Gramini. And during the war or battle, this Gramini, he used to lead the soldiers from his village. And also what we can see, this Gramini, he attended the meetings of Sabha and Samiti. We'll discuss about it later. And several villages or several Gramas that formed into Vish or group of villages were called as Vish, and it was placed under Vishapati. So Vish was under Vishapati, and he was a military leader and he supervised the activities of these gramas. Also what we can see, a group of which were called as Jana. Jana simply meaning the tribe. And the members of these Jana, they were bound together by real or supposed ties of kinship. So what we can see, kinship was the base of this Jana. And Goba was the head of this Jana. So what we can see, Goba was the head of this Jana. And several Janas finally formed into the formation of Janapadas. And the Janapada was simply referred as the kingdom. And the Rajan or the king was the head of this Janapada. So in Rigveda we can see the mentioning of three important political units such as the Grama, the Vish and Jana. Finally this Jana led to the formation of Janapada. And this Janapada was under the control of Rajan or the king. Now we are going to understand about the king. The king also referred as Rajan. He was the head of this Janapada. And he was the head of this Rigvedic polity also. And the king was anointed by a priest through Abhisheka ceremony. So there was a ceremony for the anointment of the king. And it was conducted under the presence of a priest. And the most important duty of this king was to protect the life and the property of his people. And the king was recorded to be Indra in valor, Mitra in kindness and Varuna in virtues. So there were some kind of qualities attributed to the king itself. The maintenance of law and order was his principal duty. And he maintained this justice with the help of Purohitas. Meaning what? There were no established legal system. It was maintained with the help of Purohitas. And the king, he collected some kind of tributes from his people through a voluntary contribution called as Bali. However, what we can see, the king, he was not the owner of the land. And it was the joint property of the tribe. Since we are discussing about the tribal form of polity, the ownership was not private and it was a joint property ownership. So these are some of the important points regarding the king or the Rajan of this Rigvedic polity. Also, there were some other officials in Rigvedic polity in order to help the day-to-day administration. We had some officials such as Purohita. We have already mentioned about Vashishta and Vishwamitra of the Bharata tribe for an example. And the Senani, meaning the military commander, the Gramani, the head of the village administration, the Spa or the spy system, all such kind of functionaries were established or were held in the Rigvedic polity. Regarding this army, what we can see, there were different units of army such as infantry and chariots, and the infantry were called as the party system and Rathins were the chariot system. Also they used important weapons such as bows, arrows, swords, axes and spears. We can see the soldiers, they were organized into different units such as Sharda, Vrada and Gana. So what we can see, these three terms, Sarada, Vrada and Gana, were associated with the military establishment or military organization. Regarding the justice established in the Rigvedic period, as we already mentioned, there were no regular legal institution at this period. Or there were no regular legal establishments such as today we have judiciary or Supreme Court. Such kind of establishments were not there at that time. But instead what we can see, the customary law was in practice. And it was done with the help of these Purohitas or the religious priests. Theft, burglary, robbery and cattle lifting were the important or the principal crimes existed during that period. So this is about the justice system. Finally, about two important popular assemblies or political institutions. They were called as Sabha and Samadhi. We have already made a separate video regarding the Sabha and Samadhi. If you want to know more about this Sabha and Samadhi, go and watch it. Sabha and Samadhi were two important political institutions of this early Vedic period or Rigvedic period. And the significance of these institutions were, even though the king enjoyed substantial power, he was not at all autocratic one. Instead, what we can see, there were two important institutions such as Sabha and Samadhi in order to control or organize the day-to-day administration of this polity. And regarding this Sabha, the head of the Sabha was known as the Sabhapati. And the Sabha that advised the king on day-to-day administration. So, important function of this Sabha was to advise the king on day-to-day administration. It also functioned as court of law and tried the cases of criminals and punished them. So these were two important functions of the Sabha. One is to advise the king on day-to-day administration. Another one is it acted as the court of law. Next is Samadhi. The head of the Samadhi was known as party, and the Samadhi that mainly dealt with the political business of the state. It mainly dealt with the political business of the state, and it also used to elect the king. So what we can see, there existed some kind of democratic elements in this Rigvedic period. As part of that, there were some kind of elections, and that elections were conducted through the Samadhi. So this is basic about these political institutions, Sabha and Samadhi. If you want to know more about it, go and watch the video. So this is all about this module. Hope the video was useful. If you like it, please subscribe my channel. Also share among your friends. It would be better if you comment your opinion in the comment section below. So that's all guys. See you in the next video. Thank you.